Hey guys, so I just saw the movie The Red Pill about the men's rights activist, and I would like to do a review on it. The Red Pill is a documentary. It's on gender issues, but specifically it focuses on the men's rights activists and the men's rights movement. It's a film by Cassie J, and she used to be a feminist apparently, and she wanted to look for a new topic to make films on, and then so she started to look into something called the rape culture, and then eventually she found the men's rights activists, and then she found all these terrible things talked about them, and she then decided to investigate further, and then she did this film, which kind of films like it's like a video diary of some sort of her journey down the rabbit hole, so to speak. Now, there's a funny thing before I saw this movie, which is that I ran into kind of an argument somewhere on Facebook regarding Meryl Streep's speech. I don't know when she gave that, but she gave a speech in one of her awards about how women are being so disadvantaged in Hollywood, in the film industry. Meryl Streep, she's like a huge feminist. So then I sort of just kind of like, where's your evidence, right? And then all these people are kind of telling me, you're crazy to even suggest that women were not disadvantaged in Hollywood. How can you say that? Look at, there's only 12% of female filmmakers slash directors. Look at, there's so few. So therefore, it's because of sexism. And so I just kind of went down the path of, well, it could just be because of women's choices, their sexual dimorphism and all that stuff. Then they kept telling me that I'm insane, I'm crazy, that I wanted to go back to live in the 50s and all that stuff. So honestly, I should have saw the film before I engaged with these people, because I would have just kind of slapped at Cassie J on them. And it's just like, well, you know what, this woman used to be a feminist, and she didn't like how she was treated when she was an actress, so she just kind of like, well, fuck it, I'm gonna make my own films. It's kind of like, booyaka bitches, I'm doing my own thing, okay, well, fuck off. So that's what she did. So what is stopping any other woman from following her? I'm just wondering. So this is the thing, I mean, I just have to say that when I was a feminist, like, I probably still wouldn't agree with the current third wave, fourth wave, whatever feminism is called. I mean, feminism used to be, for me, was like a personal thing. It was actually something that I keep into my head, to almost being sneering at like whiny women, like they got themselves into a relationship or got themselves in kind of situation, and they're just kind of like, oh, like, oh, men treat me so badly, blah blah. And I just kind of go like, well, you could leave, you could say no. And or they're complaining about, oh, well, this guy, men earns more money than me. And I'm just like, well, be a feminist. If you want to earn, money, if you want to be rich, be an engineer, be a computer scientist. I mean, what the fuck? I mean, you have the choice to make your life better. So just stop whining, stop becoming a weakling, stop being dependent. Holy fuck. And just take control of your own life. That was why I was a feminist. I mean, the idea that men and women are equal should be perpetuated by, mostly women in showing that they could earn the respect from men, by doing things, by showing that they could do it. That was really what feminism was about for me. And the reason that why I was a feminist was because, I came from a traditional society where I mean, of course, now I can't really say that I just know how it was if I would have been a boy, but it's just that from what I've seen, it's just that both girls and boys are competing for academia, and academia is like a religion, in like the Chinese culture. It's like, if you don't get an A, like, you get beaten in many cases. And so there's probably still a difference, but I didn't just really perceive that, because the parents are just, even if you're a girl, the parents will say, this boy, look at how hard he's working, and you should just, you should be working just as hard as this boy, sort of a thing. Like they didn't separate genders out, at least it's not from my experience, and they're very hard on the girl. And this is, anyways, this is just from my experience, and the girl tends to have like the best grades, and I've seen like how the parents treat a girl. I mean, they're just like tiger mom and dads. So this is why I was thinking, this is why I was a feminist, because I just thought that there was a double standard, because on one hand they're expecting girls to go to the best colleges, they have this pressure that they put on girls, and on the other hand they're also telling girl, oh, but you must also, and when they're teenager, you must also be gentle as water, you must you should be less headstrong, you should be more sympathetic, meaning that you should conform to sociability, you should conform to the group, and you should not like speak out against anybody. You should do the housework and all that stuff. So they're teaching like girl stuff and they're teaching boy stuff. So I really felt that there's just kind of a mismatch. Like there's the double standard. Like girls have to do more. And then they also tell you things like, well, for boys, you know, you just need to make sure that he has enough money, he has enough prestige. Like as long as he's not like, he doesn't have a temper that he's gonna beat you. Those should be the character that you should look for when you seek like a boyfriend, when you seek a husband, sort of a thing. But you, on the other hand, should also get a job and you should do all this feminine stuff. So that's my experience for why I used to be a feminist. But my response to that is just that, well, rebel against it. Like just choose one. Like either you become an kind of a more of a housewife. I mean, you can still have a job, but if you want to be the housewife kind of a wife, then own up to it. I mean, stop whining. If you don't think that's good for you, then you should become independent. You shouldn't be so dependent on things. And I also just think that women being so dependent is just not a good thing overall, because I just think that dependency up to a certain level, it's not good for any individual, whether it's man, woman, even children or whatever, old people, whatever. When you place yourself to depend on somebody so much, like over a certain threshold, it places yourself to be very vulnerable. It places yourself to be to have less power, less control over your life. So that was sort of my view on life, and that was why I was a feminist. So it was never really about, I think, men owing me something. I think I didn't think much about it. I think I probably did. I think I did accept the idea of a patriarchy, but it was mostly for, well, because the society makes it so that men are placed in charge, because that's how the evolutionary process worked, because of the separation of roles that men and women takes on. So that's why society puts men in charge, because that's just how it came to being. And I was thinking about it came from hunter-gatherer society, where men were actively having to go out to fight and to actively hunt, because they're stronger, and then when wars come, they had to fight for their colony or whatever, and then so naturally they're being placed in charge. So I believed in patriarchy from that perspective. So it's from a natural process, not because somehow men just use it to systematically oppress women. I think it used to be that I did think that, because I think when I was in school somewhere, I was taught that men used to believe that women were magical because women gave birth. So we used to live in matriarchal society. This is probably not true, or it's probably not the entire truth. But men used to believe that women were magical, so it used to be a matriarchal society. But after they discovered that they had something to do with it, then they pretty much just took charge. I think that's like a common view back then of how patriarchy was formed. But even then, what I thought was, okay, that may be true, but they did also have to fight wars and things like that. So naturally, people will place them in charge more and more and more because we were just too warlike. We were too stupid, and we could not talk anything out to achieve peace, and we had to constantly fight. So we had to constantly just like kill each other over, and then we expect men to do it because they were stronger. So of course they're gonna take the power, you know. So that was like my conception, and this third wave, fourth wave feminism, where they just muddle up everything, and making men to be like demons. Yeah, I don't remember people were that insane when I was going to college. The movie's called Red Pill because it's kind of referencing the Matrix, where you have the blue pill and you have the red pill, and the red pill sort of reveals a side of an issue, reveals information that you didn't previously know, to give you a bigger picture of the truth, to tell you things that that weren't normally talked about. Whereas the blue pill is just the state that you want to stay in. You want to stay in your ideology, in your belief, and you don't want to challenge your belief. That's as best I can summarize it. And the movie is pretty good. It's not going to be as, how should I put this, as aggravating as Michael Moore's documentaries. You know, like if you think about Michael Moore's Sicko, that's really entertaining, and it's really like on point, and it's really like impacting, I guess. Like it really convinces you. Whereas the red pill is for people, mostly the people who are not sure, people in the center, and it's mostly showing you things, so you go and you make up your own mind. So then she interviewed mostly the MRAs, and then she also interviewed the feminists, and you make up your own mind who's right, sort of a thing. But she doesn't make any commentaries, well, not a lot of them, she doesn't make a lot of commentaries when it comes to some of the arguments, so if you are more supportive of the men's rights activists, you may find that there are several occasions she could point out some of the things, like when she talked to a feminist, she could have said, where's your evidence for that? Or when a feminist said that the MRAs are not correct on some things, and she could have said, like, what, right? So this is something to be expected of the movie. It's really just sort of listening, showing you things, and then there's a lot of jump cuts. Several things that I reflect on when I watch this film. I think because I used to be a feminist too, but I don't think I've ever had the feeling that if somebody comes over and told me that, well, men have issues too, that I would just become awful hostile. I think I did have a bias against men, but at the same time, I don't think at least I didn't think I was misandrist to the point where I just cannot get anything in that's contrary to what I previously believed. So what Cassie Jaye went through, where she went down the rabbit hole and she had all these video diaries where she was kind of saying, oh my god, I don't know who to believe, this is sometimes too much, I think the MRAs are duping me. Just personally, I don't think I had ever gone through that, or if I was Cassie Jaye making this video, that I would have had this, I would have been through this particular kind of ordeal. So there's that, because I think the really frustrating thing about today's society is, so let's just say that you never heard of men's rights. Let's just say that you really, really believe that um, men did have all the rights, right? Like you just think that it's a ridiculous idea. Sort of like if we're still in absolute monarchy and there's a group of people, they call themselves the king's rights activists, right? That's just, really ridiculous because you have the absolute monarch making all the laws. But even in that case, when you have a group of people that comes over and they say that I'm fighting for men's rights, I'm fighting for whatever rights, I think the reaction, at least, you should ask the question, okay, so you guys are men's rights activists, what rights don't men have? And that would start the conversation, right? I mean, that is the question. Even if you're kind of asking it in a more sarcastic way, the first question that you would start asking would be, well, what rights are you talking about? What the fuck are you talking about, man? But then in the movie, she's showing that when this guy, I don't know the names of all these MRA, sorry, this guy with a microphone, with all these guys with sort of a sign on about all these men's issues, and this guy said that there has never been such a big gathering. Today we're going to talk about the fact that men or boys are in crisis, right? I mean, if I had heard that, or if any reasonable people heard that, I would have flocked to them. I would be like, oh, that's interesting. Men and boys are in crisis. I've never heard this before. But then what you actually see is that you see all these, I guess they're feminists, sort of boycotting them. They're protesting them. They're calling them names. They're just saying that you are racist, sexist, homophobe, misogynist, whatever. I forgot exactly what specific name they call them, but it's several of those, racist, sexist, homophobe, whatever. They're just like shouting them down using these names. And this is just something that's just really weird for me. The thing that's really weird about this incident that the feminists are trying to shut down these MRAs from speaking really sort of suggests that in this culture there is a problem that men are no longer seen as human beings, because it's kind of like the A equals B, B equals C, therefore A equals C kind of logic. If you think men are human beings and you think fighting for human beings is a good thing, then a men's rights activism, you should at least think that, well, that sounds like it's something positive. I think. I mean, maybe I'm just crazy in thinking this, but the fact that they think that if you call yourself a man's rights activist and you are bad, just by default, just by calling yourself a man's rights activist, you are bad, suggests to me that you really don't think men, people with penises, deserve rights, which means that you don't think they are human somehow. So if you support human rights and you think men are human beings, then you should support fighting for men's rights. The idea that men have all the rights, therefore you don't need to fight for their rights, that's something else. I mean, even if you believe that, even if that's true, that is something else. That's coming about after you ask the question, what rights don't men have? I sincerely think that, I mean, I don't know about Canada, or the UK, but at least in the US, what I experienced with that was that people were way more sane during the Bush era. Like before Obama came along, like there was, I never experienced that people had a problem talking about gender differences or any of that stuff. I mean, to just give an example, I mean, the first one is I learned about the male-female different distribution curve in one of my psychology classes. And there was no boycott, there was no protest, this professor, there was nothing. Everyone was just like, oh, that's interesting. And what this professor said was, because he teaches like genius, creativity, and leadership, and he just said that, well, are there gender differences? And he said that, well, geniuses are more likely to be men, right? And he said that in class. Okay, I mean, it's it's hard to think what would happen now if he had said this, but during that time, he said this in class, and nobody gave a fuss. I mean, it's like, whatever. Everyone's just like, oh, that's, sucks for women. But then he said, oh, but guys, don't celebrate yet because, because of this distribution curve, the people who are really stupid, really dumb, are also tend to be men, right? And this is something very interesting. And he started talking about like why this is, and the competitive nature of men and all this stuff. It's all very interesting. Nobody gave a fuss. Everyone came away from that class feeling like they've learned something, and they felt like they had their mind challenged. That's it. The second example would be when I was talking to this other professor about whether or not it's true what people think, that if a child is raised by homosexual couples, the child would have some, I don't know, negative effects on raising the child or something. And she said, I don't know if the research is still agrees with what she said then, but she said then that what the research actually shows was that the children raised by homosexual couples, they have a lot of benefits in terms of academia, especially, but it's also in terms of sociableness, and they score very high on all those metrics. But she said that, however, there is a confound with that, which is most of the data from homosexual couples came from gay couples, so it came from male homosexuals and male homosexual couples. And that has a confound effect because when it comes to children, fathers has a very positive effect on the child's competitiveness, the child's especially academia, and also sociableness in terms of competitiveness. And she said that the effect is much bigger if it was two fathers, two guys raising a girl, So that girl gets the biggest benefit if she's raising by two males when it comes to competitiveness of academia and sociableness. So, like she just put it out there. I mean, she just said that because female homosexuals are very hard to find because women and women can live together, and people would think that's normal if they're not homosexual couples. However, it's less likely for a man to man to live together, sharing like the same room, sharing everything, and people would think that's normal. So, it's very interesting. But this was during the time when, like I said, people were saying. So it really kind of makes you think about how we got to this point and where we are right now, and how did it all happen, basically. So again, I'm not saying, in other places in Canada and UK, maybe the situation had always been really, really bad, but at least when I personally experienced in academia, it didn't used to be like this. And I don't want to, don't quote me on it, but I tend to think that if Milo Yiannopoulos and the other people on more of the right side, if they had come to talk to these campuses during, let's say, the Bush era, I don't think there will be as many protests. That's what I tend to think. I think they were more open to different ideas back then, and I don't know. I still have a lot of acquaintances who are raised in academia in those eras, and I talked to them about, MRA, and I said men's rights activism. Generally what they say is, oh, interesting. MRAs, that's weird, but interesting, and I tell them to look into it, right? So, what I generally think is that the biggest impact of this film just came from the fact that it really makes you ask the question, how should we conduct ourselves in searching for the truth, I guess. To what extent should we make sure that people will be open-minded enough to be able to accept something that they've never heard about that really challenged their beliefs. So I think the fact that Cassie J feels that she really, like, her world really went upside down sort of suggests to me that academia really needs to be fixed. And this is something that I'm very passionate about because I really want to go into teaching, and I really want to make sure that I deliver the most accurate information to my students. I'm teaching right now for this semester, and this is something that that I'm constantly being very hard on myself with when it comes to research methodology, when it comes to science. So overall, I just think that everybody should see this film. And I mean, it's not gonna be, it's not gonna make it onto any awards nominee list, right? Because it's still very politicized. But I think things may be changing because what I'm seeing from my Facebook feed, especially, is that even though it's still kind of a hive mind, it's still very much an echo chamber. Now people are less willing to just kick out opposite point of view. There are more and more people with opposing views, with different opinions, who come onto these social media sites that I don't think that would have happened before Brexit, before the election of Trump. But now there are people actively more and more showing the different sides. So maybe we'll be saved. I don't know. So definitely go see it. It comes out on the 17th of March, but I think you can find it on some online sources. But I will still be buying it though. And let me know what you think, and see you next time.